Hello.
Hi, how are you? We are just 2 minutes late.
Yes.
Happy Tuesday. Okay, I'm gonna message our guest.
We are having Pamela back on today because we didn't have any sound last weekend or last week during our podcast, and it was an awesome talk. She is full of wisdom and full of she told her testimony and how far her family has come, and yes, you guys are going to love every minute of it.
Well, did you tell them? I was asking her if she's ready. We had sound at this part, but as soon as she came on, the sound went away and we didn't know it. Somebody said, I don't hear anything, but then so many people were talking and nobody else said they couldn't hear. So we just figured it was just one person. So we're going to have a replay.
Yes. And it's gonna be good. She'll be here in just a few minutes, so yeah. Thanks for everyone. Oh, there she is. Yes, I'm gonna have my phone ready to go.
I hope you all had a lovely weekend. Hello, pretty girl.
Hi.
Hello.
We're gonna test the sound this time.
Yeah, please someone tell us if you can hear us. I have an AirPod in. We're going to try something different this time.
We're gonna test this out really quick.
Here, I'll go to us. Let's see here.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
We're doing wonderful. It was a little running around to get here on time, so.
Same.
Okay, we can hear. We're good.
Awesome.
So I know that it's going to sound a little repetitive on our end. However, I loved our talk that we had, and I would love to be along the same lines as that as well. So if you want to give a little short biography of who you are, and we'll start from there.
Yeah. So I started off, I guess, where people could say they might know me from was I was acting and modeling I was acting at a young age. I started modeling around 20 and was on shows like Fuel TV for some years and did some movies and commercials. But a lot of people know me from meeting my husband on a TV show called Below Deck. And so we filmed that, filmed another season of Below Deck, and then filmed a show on CMT together as well. But then I got pregnant with my son and COVID happened, and now I am a stay-at-home mom and homeschooling and all the things. So it's a very big shift of events.
Yes.
It is not your everyday run-of-the-mill actress, model, turned stay-home homeschool mom.
Yeah. And I know that everybody in the entertainment industry or Hollywood would like completely frown upon it. So it's even better because I can be like, well, you know, everybody can do what they want to do. So
Right. And in all actuality, Robin and I were talking about this morning. You're living the good life. It's just that somehow people don't recognize it as that these days.
well, and even I didn't when I was in it, right? Because you have done something for so long that that's what you expect your life to be. I mean, I know nobody got to hear it last time, but I was casting for a huge TV show that would have been life changing had I got it all the way to production round when I found out I was pregnant with my son. And so when you're in it, you know, you've just worked so hard that every time you get something new, you're like, oh, this is my next big break. This is my next big break every time something comes around. Um, but we were always on the go. I mean, my husband and I were always together. I always took him to every event, any red carpet, things like that, but always on the go. Like sometimes 2 to 3 red carpets a week because it was like you don't want to miss that opportunity of somebody seeing you and then you get like the next thing. And so looking back, I'm tired even like thinking about it because now it's like 9 o'clock and I'm like, get me in bed. And that was sometimes when we were like driving to an event. So yeah, you don't realize how lucky you are to be in this life, I think, until you're in it because it's always going to be chasing the next big thing, the next, thing that you can say you were in to talk about on the red carpets. Like it's just a constant chasing and never going to be satisfied because you look at the biggest actors in the world and they need that next thing to be relevant again. So it never ends.
Yeah, we actually didn't talk about all that last time. I like that
No.
you elaborated on that because, it's even though we're not all in Hollywood, we're not all doing reality TV, chasing a dream that is not children and a family is very different, no matter what it is. That home life is so much more stabilizing, and
Mhm.
we overlook that these days. Whether it's good or bad or indifferent, it is something that's overlooked.
No, I think especially because I've talked to moms before and they'll be like, I could never be a stay-at-home mom. Like I could never be at home with my kids all day long. And I get it because I have hard days with my son. It's not
Yeah.
easy every single day, but do I want to put him in the hands of somebody else having no idea what they're going to teach him, no idea what their morals are, no idea, what life lessons could be happening during the day that, I'm not picking up on. So it's always the choose your hard, which I know is like such a cliche slogan, but it's so true because it's like when I was always on the go, that was hard too. I was always gone, always busy, always going, to bed and getting up 6 hours later. So it's just, well, what do you want? Do you want to be constantly on the go, never really with your family? Luckily for me, I always took my husband to everything, but I can tell you that it's not the norm in the entertainment industry. Um, but yeah, it's always, what do you see your long term? Because it's like, well, yeah, if you think, oh well, I'm just gonna hustle my career for 10 years and then I'm gonna like, enjoy the family. Well, you've already missed the opportunity of all the bonding time, and you're gonna look back because I have the same conversation with my mom. Like she's worked her entire life, doesn't know anything different, and when she finally retired from this last job, I said, the moment you retire, you're never going to hear from these people again because they need you right now. They don't need you when you're not there anymore. And it, like, within 3 months, never heard from anybody else. And I was like, because the career only needs you when you're there. Like, these friendships are going to fade. They're your friends because you're forced into friendship being with these people every single day. But it's very rare that you come out of a career with like lifelong friends that you're going to stay in touch afterwards.
Right. Yeah, I've never even thought about that, but it's true. You know,
Hmm.
I worked my whole life. I tried to make my job while my kids were at school,
Hmm.
once they were all in school. But I mean, if I see some people that I used to work with, of course I would say hi and chit chat, but I mean, we don't do anything.
Hmm.
Well, and too, like, I remember when I had my first daughter, my husband was like, "You are not working. Absolutely not. Like, not gonna happen." And I
Good for
remember
him.
being terrified. Like, I am like a really active person. I've always worked for everything. Like, I was like, what am I gonna do all day at home? But now that I'm like, oh my gosh, like, tables have turned. I'm like, I could spend all day at home even when the kids are at school and still like maintain the house, maintain all the things that you need to do.
Well, I think to what you said, if you grew up working, because I started working when I was 14 years old, and not even like just in the entertainment center, like I had a real job by 14 to like start making money. If you grew up working and then you become a stay-at-home mom, I think you have an identity crisis for a couple of months because I remember feeling like when my son was like a super, obviously infant, that I wasn't doing enough. because I was so used to being busy,
Right.
having so doing something with my hands constantly. And so I had an identity crisis of like, who am I now? And I almost think it's so good for moms to like be able to step back and step away from your career because your career shouldn't be who you are.
Right.
And thank God we found our faith and everything else that's come along the way that kind of forced us in such a different uh, position. But I'm so grateful that now almost unless we talk about it like, on this, that most nobody knows that I came from the entertainment world. They just think I'm a stay-at-home mom if they meet me on the street or whatever. And I homeschool and things like that. And it's so great that it's like my whole identity is not anymore of what I've done or what you can look up. It's that I am a wife and I'm a mom. And I don't know, there's just something about it that you feel so much more comfortable in your own skin because I don't need to rattle off all these things I've done to sound important to somebody that I just meet.
Right.
That's a really good point that I wish more young women would understand that your identity isn't in what you do, it is actually who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Being a mother, no matter what this world says, no matter how much this world wants to beat it out of us, I don't know any mother that would not say her children are the most important thing she ever did. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a mother. My mom said it. All of my aunts, everyone I've ever known that's a mom has said that. And you don't know it until you are a mom.
Yeah.
Well, I was about to say, it's not like when you die, they say like CEO of Pepsi, like on your casket. Like, no, they're not going to put that on anything you do, but it's like it's been so ingrained in us that you need to put all of this emphasis on the title, on the job, all the different things. And so it's so interesting now. I think we are starting to come into more of a phase of like women wanting to be stay-at-home moms or homeschool or whatever it may be. But it was, I think the feminist movement was such a different conversation than last week. The feminist movement has made like such strongholds that it's like we're slowly starting to rewind it. And I think women are like, oh, this is not like the lie I wanted to be sold. Like I don't want to be working 12-hour days and be stuck at the office and these fluorescent lightings and I think it's women are slowly starting to realize like, no, this is not all it's cracked up to be.
I think so too. I feel that shift too. I talk to a lot of moms. I feel like is in that same track. Like this is our job. Like this
Hmm.
is important, and it's a lot. And then when you
Hmm.
try to work and then get everything going, like there's days where I'm just like my head is spinning. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I don't know, like along with what you said with like the feminists, like I think that it's been a couple of generations where we really have gotten disconnected from moms being, so precious and their jobs being so important and it's okay that that's who you are. You're a mom.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the fact that you're never going to get those moments back, like I'm lucky
Yeah.
enough to say I've never missed one of my son's milestones and I've never missed one of my daughter's milestones. And I pray that, our baby that's on the way, I don't miss any of he or she's milestones. So I think that's something important too, because once again, like love my mom, but she's said, I think she took 6 weeks off and then she had to go back to work or whatever and would drop me off at the babysitters and I'm like that I just don't feel like that's something to say to be proud of. Like I went back to work after 6 weeks. Like that's just not something in my mind that it's like, oh, chip on the shoulder. I did it because to me, it's harder to be all day long with an infant child, which sometimes you have no clue what they want. And you're just like trying to wrap your head around how you survive the day, then getting a break for 8 hours and then coming home like, oh, I missed you so much. I don't know. Like there's just something so different. And maybe that's just where we won't see eye to eye on things. Um, but I think that it's way harder to be in all of those hard moments with your children and get through them. And then when they're a grown up, you can actually say, I take full responsibility for the human that the great human that they came to be, you know? Where if the school system and a babysitter rose your children, I feel like you should be giving them a pat on the back for
Yeah.
doing it because they're the ones that were with your child the majority of the day, you know? And my biggest thing is I always tell people, like, I didn't have kids so that way someone else can raise them. Now, I'm not saying like I don't want to break every once in a while because
Hmm.
there's people who will try to throw that in your face too. Because I'm mom 24/7. There's nobody around us, no family, any like that. Like, yes, every once in a while, like once a month, I would like a date night or like a facial or something. But that doesn't change wanting to stay home with them and trying to do the Lord's work.
Right. I think it's something that came to mind when you were, I champion cheer all of that on. And I worked when my kids were growing up, and I thought that's what I was supposed to do. You know, it was that, it was that era. You know,
Hmm.
this day and age, it's almost, we're trying to break off the offense of women saying, I want to stay home. And if women that feel offended, if there's a woman on here that might feel offended at this, that work if you want to work.
Hmm.
The point is that raising humanity is a big job. And it's
Hmm.
worthy and it's valuable and it's not nothing. It's not like you're just lazing about, you know?
Yeah.
There's nothing to be offended about staying home or talking to someone that does stay home, or maybe you have it in your mind that I think I would like to stay home and raise my children. You know, I'm ready to break that off of the thought pattern.
Yeah. I don't think it's so much offense, but it's a misconception if you've never been in either shoes. Like, I'm not going to say going to an office is not easy because I've worked the long hours, had the pressures on me, all of that stuff. So I'm not trying to pretend like that's the easy way out as well. But I think when you are at home all day long, you have the cleanups, the messes that like nobody's bailing you out of daycare of everything that happens throughout the day. And you have to go through that every single day and it becomes obviously like monotonous at some times. um I think it just brings you right back down to like the humility, being selfless, learning patience to a whole new extreme because I can deal with adults all day long. Like, I have no problem being like, boss woman, this is not okay, we need to talk about it. But when me and my son have something, and I really have to like calm the face down, calm the tone down, it's one of those things where it totally brings you so much humility of, I have a lot to work on myself just to be better at this on a daily basis. And I think that's what's kind of cool about it is you really do transition just being a mom on having to relearn, rethink ways, break generational curses, just so much when you're in it every single day that you get to really grow as a person.
Yes.
Yes, I
Being a
agree.
mom, I feel like, has been so humbling and growing, I guess, like growing in who you personally are as a mother,
Hmm.
because you're right. Like, there are times where it's like, kid listening to a kid scream, and it's like, what do you do? And it's like, well, whatever you do is they're watching and looking and taking in notes. And so, yes, it's very true.
I tease my kids a lot. My husband and I, we have 4 kids. Two of my kids each have 4 kids, and then one of my kids has 2 kids. So there's lots.
Yeah.
And watching, kind of being a little more on the outside, I just have grandkids, which, whoa, they are the way to go. They're awesome. But if if being a parent is easy for anyone, maybe they're not doing it right. Because I watch my daughters and they're all exceptionally good parents, but it is a grueling experience sometimes. Very rewarding, you know. God makes them cute, so we love them.
So one part that I loved about our last conversation was you had told us a little bit of how your journey of finding your faith was. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so it goes back to the casting of that TV show. So basically, every time I was acting, modeling, doesn't matter at what age, I always had a normal job still. So I always still maintained something. So that way, if times were slow or whatever it was, or it'd be at least flexible enough where I could still do that. So, anyways, my husband and I worked at the same company. I was casting for this TV show, made it all the way to production round, which is like the last round. They're like looking at, the last few picks basically of who they're going to choose. Um, and I found out I was pregnant with my son in the emergency room of a hospital. So I swore that I was going to be, I told my husband, like, you have to take me to the emergency room. Like, I'm about to have an emergency surgery. I don't know what it is, but like, I was bent over in pain. That's how much, like, and I'm not a baby when it comes to pain. So, anyways, rushed us to the hospital. And so a couple hours later, find out I'm pregnant, and I am like crying because at the time, not saved, selfish, chasing the dream. And I was like, I'm not gonna get the show. And my husband's elated, like, couldn't be more excited, totally ruined the moment. Um, but anyways, so cut a very long story short, didn't get the show, was about 8 to 10 weeks pregnant. Both of us get laid off from the same company. So just like devastation everywhere with expecting a new baby and like having to provide for a new baby. Um, and we went through so many like ups and downs through those first couple of years. Like my husband, he will tell people now he's comfortable with it, but that he had severe depression. um, there was times where I was worried I was going to be like a single mom, not because we were going to get divorced, but because he might do something to himself. So it was just really hard. Um, but I remember, so both of us come from divorced families, and I knew I did not want to get divorced. Like, because we both came from divorced families, multiple marriages, I had the conversation multiple times, like before the wedding, are you sure? Because I don't want to do this. And you're like, oh, we'll see how it goes until like the hard time pops up. Anyways, Aiden was born, and I remember we were sitting in bed one night and we both turned to each other. And I had said, I feel like we should start going to church. And I didn't know how to bring this up because we both were sent to schools. Like I was sent to a Christian school, he was sent to a Catholic school when we were younger, but it was not instilled in the home. So kind of different upbringing than most people who get sent to Christian schools. So I turned to him and said, I thought we should go to church. And he told me, I've been thinking this for a while, but I didn't know how to bring it up to you because once again, we weren't on that wavelength of like, let's talk about faith. So we started going to church, found an amazing church in California before we had moved. We're there for, I don't know, it was 3 or 4 years, I think, before the move. Loved it, got so deep in our faith. I started serving there. We moved, found a church here. My husband now serves at the church that we go to here. I'm kind of in the baby stage where that's not quite a possibility yet. But yeah, it's just been a wild roller coaster because I'll tell people all the time, like, once again, if they don't know my background, it's like if you knew us 6 years ago, you would not be friends with us because we're just completely different people than we were before.
God has a way of doing that.
Yeah,
He
that's for
changes
sure.
us despite if we want changed or not.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's, I mean, I love to hear people's journey of like how, where they were at in their lives and how God changed them. So, and sometimes it's not easy to tell, especially when you've lived this whole life forever and now you just like, a lot of times people don't understand. It's like, I don't know. It's just, God is good. That's all.
Yeah, that's what I do think is interesting is the loss of like friendships and some family members as we went through, our journey of getting stronger in our faith. I think it's so interesting because you would never tell like an alcoholic, oh, you're still not drinking.
Right.
But it's like if I'll literally hear it from like friends or family members sometimes, like, oh, you're still going to church? Like, yeah, we're still going to church. Like, nothing's changed. So it's so funny to me that there's like this weird stigma that because we're Christian now, we're gonna like judge other people. And I don't quite still wrap my head around it, except in the fact that I'm like content enough in myself that I just don't, it doesn't bother me anymore if somebody like drifts away or doesn't talk to me because of it. But it is interesting that there's this weird stigma of if you are on a faith journey that all of a sudden you're like looking at everybody else a different way or they're looking at you a different way.
Yeah. It is
Mhm.
it is interesting. It's I don't know that I've had anyone walk away from me. I've had people I feel like don't really want to maybe come to our get togethers or because they think that even on the lightest side that our lives maybe are boring. And I have told so many people Jesus is the last thing that is boring. He is
Mhm.
the exact opposite of boring. Christian God is, all through the Bible there's celebrations. All through the Bible there's festivals, there's feasts. There's also fasting. There's times of, you know, being solemn. But that is, kind of a rhythm of life anyways. It's being a Christian, you're called to something higher.
Mhm. Well, I think there's a weird thing that, oh, I'm not going to be able, if you're in this lifestyle, I'm not going to be able to party. I'm not going to be able to drink. I'm not going to be able, it's like, but your life is going to be so much better. Like my husband and I just had our wedding anniversary yesterday and we rarely do date nights, but we had the kids watch last night and we were sitting and talking at dinner. And he he said, sometimes I'll see a commercial about like Vegas and I'm like, ooh, that sounds good. And he's like, but then I'll think we'll be at home and it's like 9 p.m. and I'm ready to go to bed. And I'm like, yeah, probably not so good.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. It's like you're not going to want to do the same things that you used to do because you'll see how like worthless they were. Like we were always out. We used to drink, not excessively, but we would drink and like the same thing. I think people now they're like, "Oh, I don't drink." And it's like, well, what do you mean you don't drink? And like they get uncomfortable. It's like we have a whole thing of alcohol. Like if somebody comes over, we're not saying you can't drink, or I'm just saying I don't drink. I've been pregnant and breastfeeding for like 4 years now, like I'm not drinking.
Right.
But it's just it's so funny how it's like once again that like stigma. It's like no, if you actually meet the Lord, like your life is going to change in such an incredible way. Like I said, like I don't recognize the person from 6 years ago, and my husband sure doesn't recognize himself from 6 years ago. But I look at my husband on our anniversary and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're such an incredible man. And I thought I loved you then, and I love you so much more now. So it's just, I think once again, it takes someone to be in it to even like see the beauty of it all.
Oh
Right.
my goodness, so much so. I love that. I have this little I have this little internal joke with myself that it makes me giggle all the time. Everyone everyone, whether they admit it or not, they want to be around a Christian. They just don't want they don't want the label of it. Everybody wants you to love them unconditionally. Everybody
Mhm.
wants you to be honest with them. Everybody wants you to be compassionate with them. Everyone wants you to be encouraged by somebody. Everybody wants all those Christian attributes in the people in their lives. They just don't want to label it Christianity. You know?
Yeah, that's
You
100%
say,
true.
yeah, you saying that about your husband, like you loved him before, but you love him so much more now. Well, you love him so much more now because Jesus is in there
Well, and
working
because
things
I
out.
see what a beautiful person he's become, you know? Like he'll do things that like I think once again you always have like this thing in the back of your head of who you married. So like he'll shock me sometimes with things he does. Like he'll just like see somebody that's like homeless and will be eating and he went and like bought them a meal and I'll take him up to him and say like, can I pray for you and stuff like that? And I'm like, who did I marry? But it's like incredible because I'm like, our kids are watching you and they're just learning so many beautiful things from the way that you act and behave now. And I probably don't even tell him enough, but it's just wild how far he's come and how just much he impresses me.
When he was going through, I'm interested in this. When he was going through depression, was that the beginning of his Christian walk or was that before his Christian walk?
A little before and a little during. I mean, we made a decent amount of money with what we used to do. So that was obviously a huge blow. And then it's so sad because we've been through like literally like this for 5 years now. But he started working for a friend that we thought we were like very good friends with. And he worked for 4 or 5 months, and this is like now very close to Aiden being born. I think he was like 2 months away from being born. Never paid my husband. And then COVID hit. So like he was owed like 40 or $50,000 for 4 or 5 months of work. And we had already once again went from two incomes to one income, thinking like, oh well, this is great. He's still making good money. And so it was just one of those things of like blow after blow. And you'll hear people say like, why is it that like the people who are bad people are so successful and then the people who like are trying to be good people are and I feel like that was like the mind flow that we were going through because it's like we're trying to be better people yet we're just getting knocked down. And so we had, I mean, we're technically still going through it because we have a whole nother business, unfortunately, lawsuit thing that happened with me. um but it's so hard when you think you can trust somebody and once again, you're Christian, you're doing the right thing, they're supposed to be Christian, and they do something to you. It's like it messes with your mind so much.
Mhm.
And I think I even myself had probably a year where I could not trust anybody. If anybody even messaged me, I was like, are you trying to get information for this person? Because it was literally, I just didn't know who I could trust because I thought I could trust this person. So I think for my husband, it was really hard during that time because his job loss was not completely justified. Then he had this friend do this to us, and then he, didn't get work for a certain amount of time, and then he's feeling like, he's not a good husband, he's not a good dad, like all the things that men go through that I don't think are talked about enough. And so, I mean, pray like literally praise the Lord of where we are today because there were times where he would sleep until like 12 or 1 p.m. when my son was little because of his depression. And now, I mean, he's up at 6 a.m. leaving the house. We have a design and flipping business, so it's called the Flippin' Christians. I think the name's cute. um, but he leaves at 6 a.m. and he'll even say he's like it's wild that I used to sleep that long and now like I'm up and I'm gone and I'm moving and I'm just once again I'm just so impressed with how far he's come and so grateful that I had it in myself to know that like just because it got hard does not mean I should give up on him, because then we wouldn't be blessed with this life that we have right now.
Yeah.
Right.
I think salvation with Jesus is instantaneous. The moment you say, "Be my Savior," I think that's instantaneous. But I think the conversion is a lifelong. You
Hmm.
know, we never become perfect. The goal is to become perfect, but
Well,
maybe
yeah.
not this side of heaven.
And I think also, especially being a new Christian, because your mind is racing in so many different directions, trying to get it right, trying to figure it all out. Like, you've probably been told all these things about Christians your whole life, but until you actually practice it yourself, you don't really know. And so I do think it is a little different for men and women.
Hmm.
Like, I feel like, when I became a Christian, I struggled in many different ways, and I see men struggle, and especially like being a new dad, being a provider, doing all the things that you're supposed to do. You're doing all the things you're supposed to do, but it's like, God, where are you? Like, why are all these things happening to me? So
Well, I heard somebody say once, not to cut you off, but it's like, I don't want to forget it because it's so good. Because when I've told it to like multiple people now, and they're like, "Oh, um, the devil, if you were on the devil's side, he wouldn't attack you. If you're on his team, he's not going to attack you." And when I heard that, I was like, "Oh, that's a good one."
yeah,
Because when it is happening to you, you are exactly like that. You're just like, Lord, I've been praying this prayer for like 2 years. Like, I
Yeah.
would love an answer or something, a resolve, whatever it may be. But like when I heard it placed like that, I'm like, well, I don't want to be on the devil's team.
Right.
So if that's the case, like, I guess I'll keep taking it at this point, because I definitely don't want to be on that. But when I heard that, I was like, that's amazing. Because now when I have somebody tell me like I'm going through a hard time, and I'm like, that's because you're not on the devil's team. If you want to
Right.
be on the devil's team,
Perfect.
he won't attack you anymore. Exactly why they say like, why do the wealthy people do all these bad things? And they say, well, because he's on their team. He doesn't need to attack them. They're
right.
gonna get what they want when they pass away. So it's just interesting because I ever since I heard that, I'm like, that's like the best analogy to
Right.
tell somebody, because it's like, well, would you rather be attacked or go to hell?
Right.
I know what I'm
Right.
thinking.
I mean, yeah, it's blunt and true.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a great way to think about it. We all go through. That is a good reminder because we all go through things. I mean, to grow, you have growing pains. The Bible says that God chastises those that He loves, and
Hmm.
you know, correction. It's like walking down a crooked trail with 20 different outlets. He's got to kind of keep you in line. And sometimes we
Well,
don't like to be kept in line. Me.
that's just
Sometimes
true.
I don't like to be kept in line.
That's 100% true.
And I do think the hardest things, like while I was living it, I'm like, God can handle us being upset. God can handle us not understanding and all that stuff. And I feel like in the hard times that I've had in my life, when, God gets me through and I look back, I'm like, okay, I understand now. I know why that I had to go through that, and I had to learn it in that way because this is how you designed me. And like I had, me so well and so intentionally that I had to go through that in that way for me to understand.
Well, and sometimes I don't even think it's to like grow you through the scenario. It's like he's protecting you and you can't see it yet.
Right.
Because I am still, like I said, in this battle that seems never ending of 2 years now. And I have, when I have talked to my husband about it, I'm like, what if this would have happened 6 months later into this endeavor? And then we had $100,000 in credit cards for this company. It's like there's so many things where God's like, I'm taking this away, but you have no clue like what
Right.
I am protecting you from right now. And that's what I tell him all the time. Like when everything first happened to, I was pregnant with my daughter, And I'm like, what if we would have had, because I don't know about everybody else, but when I'm in it, I'm like, I got to think of all the positives because otherwise I will go crazy because you just go through the rabbit hole of like, why did this happen and what's going on? But I was like, I could have had a miscarriage. I could have been in so much stress if I was not pulled from this like environment that I could have miscarried with her. Like, there's just so many things that we don't know that one day when we get to heaven, God will be like, would you like to see the possible outcomes? Because you
Yeah.
should be very grateful right now with what I have
Yeah.
given you, you know? So that I always try to think of it that way too, because everybody goes through trials and everybody, most of the time, it's not one. Like, I mean, the past 2 years, we've gone through like 3 or 4 different things all at one time. But I just keep trying to come back to we have a beautiful family. We have a roof over our head. Like, who knows? In 2 years, we could be doing so well financially off that, the person that did this to us is looking like, I can't believe what they have. Like there's just so many different ways that I look at it. And I've had to get to the point now too where even if we've been wronged, which we've been wronged plenty, especially in business for some odd reason, I'm like, do we just have horrible judgment? We just need to work together because clearly we just can't choose people, right? But I've gotten to the point now where I will pray for those people because I had a friend say, like, David prayed, to bless his enemies. And it's hard. And even if you have to grit it through your teeth, the first couple of prayers, you need to do it. And now I can do it and like not even have like an ounce of like hate in my heart. And I think that's what's so cool about it too, is as you grow, as you go through these things, you can release all the things and all the tension that your body would normally keep
Right.
just by getting through it by talking to God and doing the things that the Bible's telling you to do.
Right.
That's a great reminder. I'm very happy that you said that. To pray for people that have done you wrong, It does. It turns the tables inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
It makes us less hateful and less bitter. It
Well,
doesn't, yeah.
no, I was going to say, and it's okay at the first few times you're like, Lord, please bless this person, because it's not like the first time you say it, you're going to come out and like sound like a pastor and like it's going to be the most beautiful thing you've ever said because you're still healing yourself, so it's okay if the first couple times you have to do it, you say it like that. But it also, I think people think because you pray for God to bless them or you forgive them, whatever it may be, that you have to forget. And that's not what the Bible says.
Yeah.
So, like, since we're still going through a process right now, like, things will be sent to us. And I'm like, absolutely not. We are not doing that. You know what I mean? Because it's like, we still have a God of justice, and we
Well,
still
and
have a
people
God.
love to pair forgiving and forgetting. It is not the
Mhm.
same thing.
Or Christianity, forgiving and forgetting,
Yes.
because they'll say, well, you're Christian, so you should really like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, also my husband worked for all that money, so no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there's a fine line of God saying like, you should pray for them, not be walked all over. So
Well,
I
and
think that's what's so
wisdom, I
funny.
mean, you can't learn wisdom without going through some trials and learning from things that have happened. Not that you didn't forgive them, absolutely. Like, forgive them. You're not holding on to it, like, but we are moving forward, and I have learned moving forward that we're no longer going to be working together or
Yeah.
whatever the platform or whatever the situation. I do forgive you. Like, I don't hate you. I don't hold this inside. I'm not whatever. But as for this, we won't be doing that together anymore.
Yeah.
Well, the Bible says that a laborer is worthy of his hire. I
Hmm.
mean, the people that built the temple got paid very well. You don't, if you want to, if if you want to offer your services to someone in a charitable way, that's one thing. But for people to just decide that they're not going to live up to their end of the bargain because you're a Christian, I mean, come on now, people. It just doesn't work that way.
You'd be surprised though, especially like I said, after all these years. And I think it's wild, the Christian conservative movement, because I love being Christian conservative. I'm never going to be that conservative person that's like all of a sudden starts bashing everybody in it. But what I will say, after being in it, going to conferences, going to conventions, meeting tons of people, and then it got to the point where so many people knew, I feel like I was the new one, but so many people knew so many things about other people in the movement that I finally was like, I don't want to hear about any of this because I'm just going to look at everybody a different way. Um, but I do think there is, and I'm not going to say it's a big majority because I don't think that's true, but I think there is a small majority of people who say they are either Christian or conservative because it makes them look better and it gives them a better look online, and they are good at talking and good at portraying it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's what's been the hardest for me is like you think you're all in the same movement, so it's like we're all going to be friends because we all have the same morals, we all
Right.
like the same things. And I think that's been the hardest for me to learn. It's like, oh, no, we're not all on the same page at
Right.
all, you know? And that's weird for me because I just think maybe I'm just too like out there on like who I am, but I think that was an odd thing for me to realize that there's people who portray themselves as that but then don't live it behind closed doors because I just don't, if you're even preaching about the Bible to other people, and I'm not saying it's a pastor, but doing that, I don't know how you can know what's in the Bible and then do that. It's so like it's almost mind blowing to me, and maybe
Yeah.
that's why like we
That
all
was
watch like
one thing
murder
that
mysteries
I,
because you can't understand it.
yeah, when I was a new Christian, that the injustice in that exact situation really, really, really affected me because I'm like, well, that's not right. That's not right. Like, what is happening? You know? And so I totally agree with you. It's just like,
Sincerity is extremely important. I mean, God wants your whole heart, and that means all of you. And that is the truest form of sincerity. If you're, I was listening to a podcast yesterday. This is this exact thing where you were just talking about children that grow up in a house that their parents take them to church on Sunday but don't live out their faith the rest of the week versus parents that take their children to church on Sunday but live out their faith. The children that the parents don't live out their faith are more than likely not going to become Christians, and it's a really high number. But the parents that live out their faith, it's over 80% of those children that will choose Christianity for themselves. And
Wow.
it's, yeah, it's just exactly what you said. It's, you know, how do you claim Christ and then not live it out? You know?
I mean, my like I said, that's why my mind still like it baffles me. It can't compute it all. But like I said, it's the only way I can realize like why people are fascinated with watching like murder mysteries or like guilty as charged. So like could the documentaries about Scientology because I'm like, how do you people believe this stuff, you know? But it's the exact same scenario. It's like how do you do this on a day-to-day basis and go home? Like if that was that person's life, we would watch it on TV because we would literally say like I don't understand how you can go tell people things and then do this behind closed doors. And I think that's why people have a fascination because your brain cannot compute how
Right.
that's possible.
Maybe that is. Maybe. Um, yeah.
Next reality TV show.
Right.
I'd watch it.
So back to motherhood and becoming fairly new parents. Just for anyone watching, how has becoming a mother shown you the aspects of Christianity? How could you relate being a mother with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely like I had said before, like the humility, the patience, the um yeah, definitely learning that not everything is on your time frame anymore. Selflessness. But I mean, to me, once again, being a stay-at-home mom, it's the seeing. through the hard moments, the little moments where what you're doing is paying off. We're in a season of my 5 and almost 6 year old. He's got a very strong personality, very stubborn personality. Where there's times where I'm like, what happened to my 2 year old that just wanted to like hug me all the time? But there'll be times where I see it as clear as day. It was like 2 months ago, and we were sitting at the dinner table. My daughter was already in bed, and I don't even know how we got on the subject, but we were talking about stuff in the Bible, and my son just started like rambling off, like, oh, well, yeah, Jesus was born to Mary, and then he, died for our sins, and he was nailed to the cross, and then he was put in a tomb. And I was like, oh, and how long was he there for? And he was like, for 3 days. And I was just one of those things where like I started like tearing up because it was like, oh, you do listen to me when I talk to you. And it's like, what it's once again when you have to go through those like struggles of like, oh man, do have I learned so much patience with this child, because he tests me so much. Like I literally tell God all the time, I'm like, I know you gave me this child to like test my patience, because he is so stinking cute and can be so sweet at sometimes, and other times I'm like, why? I used to listen the first time. Why couldn't I get a child like me? Um, but those moments, it's so like beautiful how you're like, oh my goodness, like all this time at home, all this like, reiterating things or re-going over things, it's like finally paying off. Um, and it's something that's so beautiful that you would not be able to experience if you weren't in it for the day to day, because once again, it's like, yeah, your son can come home and verb off something that he learned at school that day, but you didn't teach him that. It's great that their brain learned it and that they can say it back to you, but it's not the same payoff as when you've been working day in and day out
Yeah.
to
Right.
get them on a certain track.
Well, and I think that the patience for mothers is a really hard one because there's so many times where like you pour out your whole soul and your whole everything to make sure that they're getting fed what they're supposed to know and knowing the Bible and knowing like them in their young years, so it's really ingrained in there. And yeah, I can't tell you how many times I'm just like, they don't hear anything I say. They don't hear anything I say. They don't apply it to their life. They don't. And then like I'll hear, them saying something to someone else, like not ever to me, but like someone else, and they're like, they know all of the stories of the Bible. They know in detail how they went. I'm like, okay, okay, we can move on another day.
Yeah, I mean, was we only go to co-op once a week, and I'm not in his. Every parent has to volunteer, so I'm in my daughter's class because obviously she's way younger. But it's the same thing. Like we'll leave co-op, we're like, "What'd you learn today?" Oh, I don't know, and I'm like, like it's not even just the school kids; it's like the homeschool kids too. But it is so true. It's like when you, even if it's not to you, but you hear them talking to anybody else, it's like the most like mind blowing thing must be like the theme of this
Yeah,
of today, because it's mind blowing. You're like, oh my goodness, he's retained everything.
yes.
It's just he doesn't say it's me, and it's just such an incredible moment when that happens.
What is co-op?
So basically, it's like a school, you could say, but it's all homeschoolers. And so we meet, the one that I'm in is like 30 minutes from our home, and it goes from nursery to high school. So, like, my daughter's in it, and it goes all the way to high school, and it's separated into their classrooms. So they'll graduate with a high school diploma if they go all the way through high school. So it's giving them the school environment, but not on a daily basis. And it's normally a shorter schedule, from what I understand. Like we only go till 12 unless he has 4-H. So it's a once a week thing where if you still kind of want them to have that socialization, getting to learn from somebody else, things like that, then it gives you that opportunity and your kids that opportunity.
I've never heard of that. That's
Yeah, they're all over.
They do like they have them here, but they're not called co-op.
I like that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
nice.
nice.
Yeah, that does sound nice.
Yeah.
Like, give it a little, break it up just a little bit.
Well, especially because, I mean, for me right now, I mean, once again, my son's 5 going on 6, but like I'm basically every single day we're doing reading because I'm like, I've told him, I'm like, until you learn how to read, not
Right.
much else. Like, not
Yeah.
saying we don't ever, like, if he's interested in something, we don't go, like, if he's sharks one day, like, we'll go learn about sharks. But I'm like, you have to learn how to read. So it's nice because when we go to co-op, like he has like science, Bible study, and I think they're doing like geography. So he's learning these other things while I'm at home trying to teach him reading. So for his, I mean, obviously it's different as the ages go up, but for me, it's like he's still getting other things reinforced until we get through that first little hump to be able to do tons and tons of things.
That sounds that sounds ideal. So we're about at the end, but I want to ask you. We like to ask all of our guests, and everybody always has something wonderful to say. If you, we call it the golden nugget. If you had a bit of information that you would give anyone, and you know it would change their life for the better, what would it be?
Well, I still feel like I want to say what I said last time. That, the grass is not always greener in marriage, and I feel like our other podcast was so much more about marriage. But I was literally talking to one of my friends, well, we had like one of our mutual friends' fathers. We were at a party, and he's been married for 40 years, all these different things. And he was telling us a story about one of his friends cheated on his wife after, 20, 30 years. And it's like the worst decision he's ever made. And I was kind of giving him me and my husband's background and saying, like, I knew going into this that I was going to keep my marriage vows. And we've been through the hard times. I'm not saying we're never going to get hard times again, but we've been through, there's no money coming in. We have a child being born. How are we going to pay the mortgage? Like all these different things, career changes. We went through all of that. And I know now more than ever, my husband knows that my loyalty is to our marriage and our kids because he saw it firsthand when it would have been so easy to be like, I did not sign up for this and walk away. Um, and so I just think it's important for people to remember, especially if anybody watches who is going through a hard time in your marriage, it's not always going to be easy, but if you work at it, you can have something so much more beautiful than you ever imagined. Not to mention, us both coming from divorced families, you're saving your children a lifetime of hurt of having to go through living with divorced parents because we both did that. Thank goodness we aren't like in therapy every single week, but it's people can say till they're blue in the face that if you get divorced, like your kids are going to see that you're so much happier. Not the case. Because unless you are somehow, it's the most magical divorce where everything is completely amicable and you never once argue in front of your kids, there's going to be some trauma and they might not show it right away, but they're still going to feel it and know it. And that was my biggest thing was like, I will not put my kids through that. And that's why I asked him so many times before getting married if that was like even an option, because I knew if we had kids, there's no chance I'm putting my kids through the same thing that I had to go through. And trust me, the dating scene is not all it's cracked up to be. So just get through what you got to do to keep your marriage alive. And it's okay also if you're in a season where you're not like getting to do all the fun things with your husband. Like we have a small baby and another baby on the way. Like we're not that couple that you see on Instagram every week going out for date nights every Friday night. That's just not where we're at. But we know in like 5 years when they're all older, we can do that as much as we want and we'll have all the time in the world. So it's not saying that we're not going to raise our kids, but you know what I mean? Like it's easier to leave and they can tell you anything, stuff like that. So we just always tell ourselves like, this is our season, and one day we're going to be like vacationing with our kids and getting to sleep in past 6 a.m., and this is just the season. So I feel like as long as you can communicate with your husband or wife, you can have realistic expectations that you guys are both going through things and changing on a daily basis, and knowing that you made a vow and you have to support that vow no matter what you're going through, then you will have enough of a stance to have a long lasting marriage. But if you let any one of those things go, then it's very easy to say, let's just get a divorce. It's going to be easier. And then in 2 or 3 years, you're going to realize it's not that easy. And the people out there are not that much better than the person that you could have worked on things with and had such a magical love story with.
I I couldn't agree with you more. I think that I am an absolute champion for marriage. I think that there are very few things that two people with a determination to stay married can't get through. I
Mm-hmm.
think they're very, maybe there's nothing because with God, all things are possible.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah. And we, we should have you back to talk about marriage because I agree with you that you said earlier, you think that maybe mothers raising their children, staying home is maybe possibly on the rise. It might be. It kind of seems like we're seeing it more, but I think that a conversation about staying married is the non-negotiable. That's it. You get married, you're tied together
Mm-hmm.
forever. That would be a great podcast.
I mean, I would love that because I know me and my husband both, like, whenever there's couples going through stuff, like, we love to talk to them just because, not because we want to be like, we're perfect, come look at us and our relationship. Because, like, no, okay, we get in arguments too. We just don't scream at each other. We get in arguments. But um, because we've been through so many different scenarios in such a short amount of time, like, I sometimes feel like we're like that old couple who can be like, well, when we were your age, like, because it's true, like we've gone through such a massive amount of like, spiritual warfare for 5 or 6 years in our marriage. So it's, I like to talk to couples because I'm like, if we could get through all of this when everything was stacked against us, when like the world says if he's not providing, get a divorce, if he's not, doing this, get a divorce, if, I'm not working anymore, then I'm not worthy, so I should, get a divorce and go back to work. Like there's just so many things that we've been through. And if we can get through that, like I like to pour into other couples because I truly do think, once again, that it's just been a societal thing that we've been fed. Like, oh, you're going to get a divorce and you're going to be so much happier. And then you have to date again.
Yeah.
And like, I have a single friend. Well, she's been in a relationship now for a little bit, but even when she calls me to like say something happened with her boyfriend, I remember I had this conversation clear as day because I said, you are going to have girlfriends. And we've been friends since we're 18, so we can be very blunt with each other. I said, you're going to have girlfriends right now tell you, screw him, dump him, da, da, da. I was like, but I'm telling you, if you think you're going to get married and not have problems that you have to deal with,
Yeah.
like, you're insane. I'm like, so I'm telling you right now, if you think that this guy is worth it, then you need to have a talk and you need to deal with it because it's not going to be better just because you find a new boyfriend. It's not going to happen. And I think I was literally the only friend that told her that. Everybody else gave her the exact advice that I said they were going to. And that's what I think is so funny. It's like you think you're going to get divorced and then you're going to meet like the most perfect man. Like, have you watched too many fairy tales? Because we're two different people. So there's going to be times where you disagree on things or he leaves his socks on the ground. Like it's gonna happen, because you guys aren't the same person. And so it's always so funny to me when people say that because yes, there's gonna be things that aren't always exactly how you pictured it. But when you work through it, that's what makes your marriage so much more beautiful because you can say to anybody who looks at you, like, we've been through the hard times. We chose to stick together and we still love each other. And anytime an older couple tells me that now, I'm just like, we hope that we're you when we get to your age, because we're going to be breaking both on both sides a couple of generations of people getting divorced, you know? So if we can do that, then we're just helping our kids hopefully be able to say that for multiple generations after us.
Yeah, I love that. It should be preached from the mountaintops. It should be. I
Let's do a
see.
marriage convention.
Yes.
Amen. Yes. You know, marriage counseling, like, I love that you're so willing to encourage people to stay married because that is not that you are right about that. That's not the norm. You know, you do one thing, one person does one thing wrong, and the man's all of his buddies are telling him to leave her. All of
Hmm.
her girlfriends are telling her to leave him. You
Hmm.
know, good for you. You be the voice of reason.
My husband, like one of his dreams too, is to like speak at a men's conference because of all the stuff that he's gone through. So maybe a marriage conference is like what is in our future.
Hey, maybe. God works in mysterious ways, and
Yeah,
sometimes
that's so
we don't
true.
always see it coming.
Maybe the Holy Ghost just planted a seed right here and now.
That would be
It,
cool. I'm not gonna
it's
lie.
needed. It is.
It
It's
is
needed.
needed. Marriage is important. I feel like it is
Hmm.
the base of every single situation. And
Hmm.
when two parents decide to stick it out and stay together, even through the hard times, and their kids, you get to enjoy your kids, their kids, and even maybe hopefully your great grandkids. That's seen and that's infectious. And that is, the way that it's supposed to be done because that's his design and that's the most beautiful picture that anyone could ever want. People just don't know it
Hmm. I
because they
agree.
think it's greener on the other side.
100%.
If we all looked at marriage like a grueling mud run obstacle course that we're running and then you finish it, you're going to celebrate together.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, my husband and I think that you said you and your husband get in screaming matches sometimes.
No, we don't. We
Oh, you don't.
argue, but we
Oh,
don't
my husband
scream at each
argue.
other. No, no, no.
Right.
Because I think it's healthy to argue, and there's so many people that think that's like a red flag. I think
Oh,
it's healthy to like disagree on things. We just don't scream at each other when we're arguing. We like talk like this, and he'll be like, "Stop arguing with me," and I'm like, "I'm talking to you."
oh, well, okay. Well, my husband is screaming at me, and I'm talking like normal, trying to keep him calm. But it's a screaming match all the same. You know, we argue so, and we've been married for 40 years. Sometimes you got to argue to get to the point. But it
Hmm.
doesn't mean you are, it's never that the point is divorce. The point is to get through the thing and figure out how you can compromise or how you can come together or how you can see eye to eye or how you were seeing things differently
Hmm.
and maybe it wasn't even differently and now you've got it worked out, you know, and you're seeing it the same. There's 100 scenarios, but
Well, and Dad's natural voice is just loud.
my husband is loud. He is loud.
That's so funny.
But you know, 40 years is an accomplishment.
A hundred
And
percent.
you and your husband, have you been married for 7?
We we had our 7 year anniversary yesterday, but we've been together 11. Thank you.
You've been together for how long?
11.
That's an accomplishment.
Well,
And
my
every
husband said
year,
yesterday we've been together longer than any of our parents' marriages, which I was like, go us.
Yes.
go
Yes.
you.
That
Everybody.
is, people should celebrate. I feel like after 10 years, every year needs to be celebrated.
Yeah.
you know? I don't know how it goes with the anniversaries. I know there's like,
I don't follow
Wood
it.
and
yeah,
lace
like
and
each
gold
year
and
is something. I'm like, I think after 10 years, every year is a vacation.
And you should just celebrate anyways, because you should be
yeah.
celebrating your love on a
Yes,
day that like you get to remember.
you should. And
Yeah.
it's great. I love anniversaries and I love marriage and yeah, it's all good stuff.
well, I'm gonna get with you and I'll think up some really good marriage topics that we can discuss. That would be fun. I think that would be helpful too.
I would love that.
All right. It was very nice talking to you. Have a good night.
You
And we'll talk.
too.
All right.
Thank
Bye.
you.